pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a new order.
Tara, will you take the attendance, please?
Anthony Moranti.
Here.
Kim Connor. Dennis Gagnon.
Here.
David Hardy.
Here.
Peter Lewis.
Here.
Neil Tolman.
Here.
Neil Zuckerman.
Okay, the minutes from the January 2019 meeting? Corrections?
Nope.
Additions, deletions, anyone? Move to adopt?
I'll move. Make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And welcome to everybody for the February 2019 Planning Board meeting. The agenda has been reversed because one of our stalwarts decided he couldn't be in two places at the same time, so we're going to start with the new business until Glenn Watson can get here. The first item, new business, is 1122 Route 9D Realty. Applicant is seeking site plan approval, construct a canopy over the gasoline pumps. Property is located on an HM Hamlet mixed-use district consisting of approximately 1 acre.
The applicant here?
Oh.
You may not think that.
Yeah, I know. All right, well, all right, we'll go to the next one maybe as we work along. And if Glenn gets here, then we can put him back into the agenda. The new item 2, Hudson Highlands Land Trust, Inc. The applicant is seeking approval of a subdivision plat to adjust the line dividing lands of Hudson Highlands Land Trust, Inc. from lands of Wing Somers Keith. Jen?
I just want to give you all the below. Basically, that color art that's on the map is pretty much what we're doing.
Is this different than what was in our
It's not
packets?
different, I'm just giving you a look so you can look at it
Oh,
yourself.
okay.
It's
Oh,
really,
okay.
it's basically what we're doing.
Okay.
Thank you. The paper chase.
Jen Reap from Beatty and Watson, representing HHLT, and Keith Wing. No, Wing Keith. Wing Keith. Hudson Highlands Land Trust just bought this piece recently, and it was an approved, most of the approved, sorry. It was most of the approved parcel A on a subdivision map that we did for Vroman in 2006. In that subdivision map, parcel A was basically this orange area with some out pieces. One was the Keith parcel, one was this Endler parcel, and one was this Dugan parcel, and that was all approved on that subdivision plat. And they're represented here, here, and here. Hudson Highlands Land Trust then bought this piece, and what they want to do is basically a lot line adjustment. They want to give the pink over to the Keith and retain the orange on this side. Right here is an open development area road that goes to Keith. It'll be shortened to about here. And when we got the 2006 approval, the the area on the roadway was short. It was I think it was 20 feet at that point, and so it was approved. We will now still be, we'll be non-conforming, but we will be less non-conforming if we shorten the road, because we'll have a little bit more road frontage. I don't know what else to say about the projects, except that there's going to be a conservation easement on this part of it, and this part we will retain. Michelle can speak a little bit more about it.
Michelle Smith, Hudson Highlands Land Trust. So I just wanted to give an overview of why we're doing this project. If you look at how the parcel, the map that you have, show it to the camera, the map that you have, on this side of the parcel is the Appalachian Trail, joins the Appalachian Trail. So this part is owned by National Parks. And over here we have a conservation easement on the Coleman property. So this whole parcel, the whole 72 acres, has always been very interesting to us from a conservation perspective. We really wanted to ensure the connectivity from the Coleman parcel through to the Appalachian Trail. It's got a lot of valuable natural resources, wetlands and so forth, and we always had a great interest, and we have a larger project where we're trying to conserve as much buffer land around the Appalachian Trail as possible. So what would actually happen to this whole what would now be a 47-acre parcel is, obviously there's already a build site on there, so that would remain the build area. The rest of it becomes a no-build, will be covered by a no-build conservation easement. So from our perspective and our goals in trying to come up with a conservation solution for this parcel, we're very fortunate to be working with landowners who we plan to, if we can get this lot line adjustment, sell those 42 acres to the Keiths, and then that surrounding land is covered by conservation easement. This is all in the open space overlay district, the scenic ridgeline overlay. So this transaction is in line with the wishes expressed in the zoning code and the open space overlay district in providing that conservation solution. Obviously, if we could sell the Keiths the whole thing, we would love to do that, but as you can probably imagine, with their house currently on that 5 acres there, they're not really interested in the rest of it and kind of what we call the earlobe here. So we're coming up with other solutions for that. We are looking for other conservation solutions. We do intend to have another conservation easement or other conservation solution on the remaining acreage of that 72-acre parcel. So I just wanted to kind of give that overview of our rationale for wanting to do this. I think this property, because of the shape of it, that whole 72 acres with the 2 holes was thought of as like a Swiss cheese parcel, that it's been challenged in terms of sort of marketability and issues around uncertainty around how many build areas were there. And that's why we thought it would be great if we could come up with a solution that the neighbours in the area were happy with, that the previous landowner was happy with, that was a good conservation solution for Philipstown, that would be great. And so this solution, we think, gets us the closest. And I hope that's helpful in explaining our rationale for doing that, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Ron, any comments?
Yeah, you have a technical memorandum from my office. As indicated, it's within the parcel's identified in the Open Space Conservation Overlay District. There's a major ridge line that runs north-south through the property, through both parcels. So the issue of the protection of the resource is obviously important. I guess I have one question for the applicant. Is there any conservation being proposed on the balance of the 42-acre piece that you propose to hold?
So I think what's remaining is about 30 acres
Okay.
that we will hold. So we do intend to have a conservation solution, and it just depends. We're still working on that. There will be an easement, so we do plan. So there's several routes that we can take here. We could work with the neighbours. We could work with this property owner and see if we could do a similar kind of transaction. We could work. There are some neighbours over here, and we can work with them. Ideally, would love to do something like that. If that wasn't possible, then we would have to look to sell it, but we would sell it with an easement on it. So that's.
Would that preclude any development or some limited development?
Obviously, we're not going to sell it for what we paid for it if there's no. So if we sell it and we put a conservation easement on it, if there is a build area that makes sense from a conservation perspective, we would think about that. But if there's no build area, we would just have to think about who would be a buyer of a no-build conservation, a no-build property. I think, if you know the history of this area, one of the challenges has always been that there was always at least one build area left according to the zoning code, but nobody really knew was it more than one. So this provides, now that we have the no build on this area, then there is no more than one. And where exactly that build area might be, we still need to do more investigation. We couldn't even get perk tests done or anything because of the rain, because of the precipitation. But we obviously wouldn't do anything. If we found a suitable build area, then it would be something that's in an already disturbed area, so close to a road, something like that. But if we couldn't, then we would have to think about who would be a buyer of the property without a build area, and it always comes down to neighbours or possibly the National Park Service itself as sort of access to the trail.
So at most, there might be one additional residence on that frontage.
At most,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, thank you. Just wanted to understand that for the record. So obviously, it's a lot line adjustment per your code, given the size of the property conveyance represents a subdivision, so you have to prosecute it as such. The first step in the process is to declare it major or minor. It qualifies as a minor subdivision, and so it should be so classified that way today. With respect to seeker, Steve has just reminded me that the lot line adjustments per the recent changes in the environmental regulations are now called type 2 actions. So the board merely has to declare it as such, and your seeker responsibilities will be concluded. Because of the AT trail that abuts the property, we believe that referral to the Putnam County Department of Planning is appropriate, which is typically done. And then there's very minor issues with the subdivision plat itself. So there's some procedural things that you typically consider on the initial appearance of a project. As I say, first thing to do is declare it as a minor. Second thing is to make referrals as appropriate. A public hearing is required on the application since it's deemed a subdivision. And the last thing is for the board to determine whether you wish to conduct a sidewalk on the parcel. I think the applicant has clearly described that they're not proposing any significant development on the piece, so you might not find that need for a sidewalk as necessary. But that's a decision you can make tonight as well.
Before we do that, any board members have any questions at the moment?
So Michelle, on the wing piece, are they allowed to build anything within whatever their build area is? Like outbuildings or?
Within the no-build area?
Within
The new,
you said there's an
the
existing
expand-
build area.
Yeah, the build area is what they already have, the 5 acres that they have. So we're not changing that because that would be too hard to negotiate. So, and
Yeah.
I can't remember, I mean,
there any restrictions
there's
on
already structures on a lot of it. And also there's very steep slopes, it's right on the top of a hill and steep slopes. But we haven't put all of the restrictions that we've put are that are in the other 42 acres that they're buying.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is really steep. It looks like there's not much of a build area, right? On the second piece.
That on this,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's, yep. So that could be the situation. That's, yeah, I mean, we have to take some risks to get some conservation done.
I mean, it's clearly, something that is so steep is well worth preserving, right? So, okay, that's all my.
Anyone else? Dave, any comments?
No, the only thing I would say is, unless you're familiar with the property, you might want to do your site visit just to make sure
Oh, yeah.
that the lot lines are being drawn in the appropriate spot. I mean, there might be some topographic reasons, or, I don't know, stone walls or whatever it might be, that you might say, well, just 5 feet this way or 5 feet that way, but I don't know, that's just a thought.
Well, this line is purposely drawn so that you get some access over to the state lands, right here, right? And then this was drawn, it was the maximum we can get over on the road without taking away frontage from Enler, or access for Enler. So that's really where those two, this line and this line, that's where they came from. It's the maximum they could take without going past.
Okay. We're going to declare it minor subdivision.
I'll make that motion.
Second? I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. Ron, would you reiterate for me on the seeker designation? On your form, it says we represents unlisted.
That's right, yeah, no. I believe it was last fall, DEC modified their seeker regulations and deemed lot line adjustments specifically as a type 2 action.
Okay.
So instead of it being unlisted, you should deem it a type 2, and that concludes your responsibilities pursuant to seeker.
Okay, do we need to make a motion to that effect?
You should, just to
Okay.
identify it.
Entertain a motion to leave seeker designation as type 2.
I'll make that motion.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Referral to Putnam County Department of Planning, motion to that effect.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Site visit. Tara, you've got some dates?
Earliest we could do is March 3rd with notification.
Okay. How's that stand with all your, come on, pull out all your,
There's not
much to iPhones. see
out there. I was out there early in the week, so it's, and I'm sure many of you know the property. It's got tremendous relief, and there's that major ridge that runs north to south where the two major building sites are.
how does the board feel about it? Do you think we need a site visit? Anybody familiar with the property? Motion to that effect or not?
I'm not familiar with it, but I'm comfortable not having one.
Anyone else?
I don't
Comments?
see what we're actually gonna be seeing, let's put it that way.
Okay. Anyone else? I'll entertain a motion to schedule a site visit, let's put it that way. Okay, having heard none, moving right along. We need to set up a public hearing.
Right.
March, what's? March 21st. March 21st. Motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
What's the date?
March 20. Okay.
Oh, well,
Yes, I'm sorry.
since this is pretty much just a lot
Microphone.
line just a lot line adjustment. And since I'm a Watson, can we direct Mr. Gaynor to make the resolution, barring we have no
Okay.
comments from the public?
Ron?
I was actually going to raise the same question of the board myself, since it's only a lot line adjustment.
Yeah.
But it's for the board to make that decision.
How does the board feel?
I'm happy to make the motion that we direct Ron to prepare both of the resolutions that he needs.
Secret neg deck and,
Well, it's just one resolution, really. So type 2 means it's exempt from secra. So there'll just be an approval resolution. In that, it'll probably reference that it's a type 2 action, but it's just one resolution.
Yeah, okay,
okay.
just the one.
Second to that? All in favor? Aye, thank you.
Thank you.
This one? Is the representative for the gas station here? Yeah. Okay. Sorry to throw a monkey wrench at you with changing the schedule. I said, sorry to throw a monkey wrench at you with changing the schedule, but
No, that's good.
we had,
I'm not familiar with this process, so it's gonna be a learning curve.
so you need to stand by the microphone, among other things. State your name.
My name is Arafat Ibrahim. I own and operate the gas station on 1122 Route 9D. It's a Gulf branded gas station. Does not have a canopy, and I'm here to try to apply to get a canopy approved.
And this had a number of years ago, a site plan approval, and it was not broached, the subject was not broached at the time of a, just out of curiosity, is it a safety issue?
No, it's to keep me in business. There's four other gas stations in Philipstown. They all have canopies except mine.
Okay.
And I own the property. In order to compete, I got to be able to provide the same services and the same features that my competitors have.
Okay.
Also, when it snows and when it rains, my customers are getting, poured on, and I feel bad. And they wouldn't come to me. Honestly, I wouldn't come to my own gas station if it was pouring rain and I didn't have a canopy.
Okay. Ron, any comments? Here.
Yeah, you've got a technical memorandum from my office. In it, I tried to identify some of the history to this project. As the chair indicates, there was a previous site plan approval granted to the project. That involved removal of fuel tanks and replacement with modern tanks.
Right.
That was done in 2012. We had a pre-application meeting with the applicant just about a year ago. I guess one question I have for the applicant is, at the time of our meeting for the pre-application conference,
Yes.
we talked about the possibility of some limited car sales on the property.
Yes.
Is there any interest in pursuing that at this time, or is this cover only the canopy issue?
That's just to cover the canopy issue. If we need to do another site plan, I'll have my architect and engineer design that, and on the second meeting, I could show you the space where we're gonna sell a few cars out of.
Well, no, that's the whole issue. If we're going to proceed with this as a canopy, it's fine.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that the other consideration was not currently on the table. So the board will only pursue the canopy question
Okay.
that you see, right?
Well, I would like to sell cars there also. I got a license from the DMV to sell cars, but, so do I have to apply for both at the same time?
You can modify the existing application to cover both.
Okay.
You have that right, but all the board wishes to know is exactly what the project is that you're proposing to accomplish at the site. So that's.
Well, right now, what you have in front of you is just canopy.
Understood.
And if you later on want to sell cars, you would have to come back again, you understand that?
Understood.
So
So,
if you want to sell cars now, you should amend your application, and we'll consider both. But if
yeah, I
you
would like to
just
amend
want
my
the canopy-
application.
Okay.
I would like to amend my application to sell cars as well.
Okay, well, maybe you want to spend a little bit of time tonight. I think the canopy is pretty much understood by the board.
Okay.
Could you discuss what you're considering for potential car sales?
I don't know if you're familiar with my location. By the
Yeah.
price sign, there's about 5 car spots where I could park cars. I would just leave 5 cars there at most.
Okay, and you're also doing repairs in the station itself?
Yeah, we repair vehicles, we inspect them, and hopefully we could sell them too.
Right. If you use that fronting area for used car sales, where would you put the cars to be repaired or to be picked up?
I
after
have
repair?
an acre of property in the back. I have a lot of gravel parking spots.
I understand that. I guess what I'm suggesting is it should be shown on the site plan. That's exactly where I'm getting.
Okay. Yeah,
All of those
when
things
I
have to be
designed the
shown.
site plan, I forgot to mention to the engineer, I totally forgot about the car sales. I was just focusing on the canopy. So I forgot.
When do you think you'd be able to modify the site plan to address this issue of car sales as well?
My architect could probably have it done within a week or two.
You're gonna have to modify your EAF as well.
The EAF form?
Right.
All right.
And is it wetlands or stream that goes through the property is not, or a contingent, connected to the property? Is that,
I mean, he's
that'll
gonna
be
have to-
affected?
It is a regulated stream. It's a very
Yeah.
small stream, as I think we
Yeah.
all know, but it would be regulated. If he modifies the site plan, we can then understand if other permitting is required. If it's in excess of, if any of his activities are proposed beyond 100 feet from the stream corridor, he doesn't require permits, but in the alternative, if it's within 100 feet, the referral to the Conservation Board would be appropriate. So, there's a few things you could still do tonight. Obviously, one is classify the project. I guess I'm a little uncertain, not having all the details for the potential car sales and the impacts of that on the site plan, be it fencing or whatever screening might be proposed.
I wouldn't even do that, Ron.
Right, no, I'm saying we might want to wait until we see the full site plan application,
Yeah.
because that may change whether it's major or minor.
So he has to come back to us with a revised.
Yeah, that's my suggestion to you, right.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Just in terms of, just for Ron. When we did Rodak, there was a discussion about cars being parked and impermeable surface, putting some kind of barrier under the car. So if there's this stream consideration, that should, be something, a requirement that might be, maybe we could help make them aware of before. he goes and
Absolutely.
designs this.
Yeah, at the time of the application, this concerned only the canopy. That's why I was anxious to talk about
Yeah.
the issues that we had talked about a year ago, because that in fact opens up other environmental issues that he'd want to respect as well.
Right.
So, once we see a modified site plan that addresses the issue of car sales, and then that gets into attendant issues, we'll be raising that point.
Okay. I just want to make sure it was like, that, if you're going to go and decide where things should be, it might be better to know in advance that you might need to
Yeah, well,
protect.
yeah, based on past,
Since
yeah,
we're here.
yeah.
And while it's not strictly required, it would be very helpful if when you resubmit with the new EAF and the revised site plan, you just have like a one-paragraph narrative write-up as to what it is you're proposing, because this, as I understand it, you don't want to operate as automobile sales. You want this to be an accessory to your repair garage. If this is a year ago, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
You came and you said, I do repairs, and sometimes the owners don't show up, and I want to be able to sell the excess. Is that all we're talking about, or?
Correct.
Is it, are you going to want a narrative on that? Like I say, just a paragraph
Yeah,
saying, this is all I'm proposing.
I'm not going to convert it to a major dealership. But the most, I'll have 1 or 2 cars at a time for sale.
Okay, so I guess at this point, you can just hold this over for further discussion upon submittal of a revised application in EAF. I can chat with their consultant in the interim and make sure that the revised materials come in appropriately.
There's no action on our part
No,
necessarily.
there's nothing to do based on
Yeah.
what's been presented tonight.
Okay. So, we'll see you next month.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Getting back to the top of the agenda. set?
You want to do this one maybe before these two and still give
They're
them a
not here?
chance?
Yeah.
Rath is here.
Okay, Greg. You're up. We're going to do Gregory Rath since he's here. We directed our engineer to prepare resolutions last month. We voted on this evening. So, Ron, if there's any comments you have?
They're very standard resos, both the draft negative secret declaration and a draft site plan approval resolution. They similarly have been provided to the applicant for his understanding and use. They're very standard conditions of approval that's typical for the board action. There's a few open issues that we still seek from them, and that's confirmation from Putnam County Health of the adequacy of the existing on-site sanitary disposal system. And there were a few technical memorandums that I had issued over the course of the board's review that I just want to check in on and make sure that all technical issues have been resolved. But other than that, the project's ready for action.
Okay. Greg, anything? Last words? Anything you want to?
Good evening, everyone. This is Keith Krolak, our architect. Should you have any questions, he's been involved with the project from the beginning. After our meeting last January 17th, based on Ron's notes of stormwater runoff and survey including finishing, erosion sediment control plan, and other issues that are outlined per his report. We work with Beatty and Watson, and Jennifer and Jason are here to address some of the open issues from the last meeting. So as a team, we've gone over many of those issues, and I invite them to address those. Thank you.
Have you got Ron's report on this?
Jen Reed from Beatty and Watson, here with Jason Snyder. One of the first things we did was the existing conditions plan. It shows the existing house and the existing driveway and there was sheds that used to be there. They're not there anymore. And I believe you had a site visit. The garage that's being built, and it shows also what we're taking away from the house. We're leaving that stone part of the structure, and we're removing all of the frame area, and this part of the driveway will be eliminated in favor of another driveway that's on the site plan. Okay. That's probably worse. Oh. Okay, so the new structure will be kind of wrapped around the stone building, and it will be further away from the road. The driveway will be going around the front, because this is going to be basically the front of the building, and then go back to the garage. I don't know whether there are items we want to talk about. If you have any questions, or Jason can answer them
There are a variety
probably.
of technical things that had to be shown on the site plans, and Jennifer's referring to some of those. And that's that's responding to technical issues that are in prior memos, which I've identified in the approving reso. I'll go through those subsequently and just be sure that they have been satisfied.
So there's nothing outstanding around it?
Other than those few things, no,
Okay.
and I'll make sure that they get resolved.
Okay.
I have one question for you, Ron, which is on these, we get these data tables all the time. And do we have any requirements that the units match in each column? Because this has, it's a technical thing, but it says, it's required 10 acres and then existing 374,996 square feet. I'm just wondering, is that just a...
They don't get to that detail, they just have to have the units shown, that's all.
So it doesn't matter.
Okay.
All right. I was just curious, because sometimes when periodically I go through and it's like, this is acres and this is feet and this is something else, and it makes me think, what are you doing?
And certainly when you look at lot area, when it's an existing lot, it's pre-existing, so.
Generally, what we do in terms of acreage is if it's under an acre, we'll usually use square feet. And I don't know if that, in the, for instance, you're talking about, but if it's over an acre, we do it in acres and decimal acres.
Yeah, this is like, the requirement is 10 acres, and I did the math, and it's like 7.5 or 8.5
That's weird.
acres, so they had the square feet.
We did that.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. I'm just curious, because just wondering what, because when it's a chart like this, it's easier to compare if the units are all the same.
Apples and apples.
Yeah.
Just like in the grocery store.
Exactly, yes.
Okay, any other comments from the board? I have that in front of me, Ron, the secret declaration.
Declaration would be the first action to take.
Yeah. Motion on that, declare it a negative deck.
I'll make that motion.
Second? All in favor? Resolution of approval? Anyone?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, what was this about Taylor Fortesi? There's something about Taylor Fortesi.
We don't have resolutions. That was my mistake.
Oh,
Get my email, did you?
I probably did. It's probably,
All sorts of nervous.
it's probably at home on the floor somewhere.
God.
The machine just spits it out,
Good night.
Mistake, it's not on for resolutions.
Okay, is it on for anything?
It is, because we heard from the fire department, it's on for discussion.
Okay. Go back to Taylor Fortesi. We did get a response from the fire company?
Yeah, at the last month's meeting, I think you closed the public hearing, but you left it open for fire department comment. So in the intervening period, I've been working at great length with the fire department to get a response from them. It's subsequently been filed. They did not raise any objection to the existing grade of the driveway. As the board will recall, that was the most significant concern to understand. And I know the fire department's been out on a few occasions with me just to make sure we understand all issues and they're clear about it. The fire department letter also suggests that they wanted a minimum 12-foot wide driveway, that they wanted a vertical clearance of 13 feet 6 on the drive to make sure there were no trees, branches, obstructions for their vehicles. And they wanted a 20 by 50 area up near the house for the turnaround, which if the board can recall from your site visit, there's a large open area where the driveway breaks to head down to the sanitary fields that's easily able to satisfy that. Fire department, again, was satisfied with that issue. They just wanted it represented on plan. And then the only technical issue from my side of note is the need to address the drainage concerns to make sure that once the driveway gets restored, because it was very well rutted up when we were there, that it's maintained so that it doesn't continue to erode and wash away. I've been working with the applicant's engineer to get the site plans revised. There is one further thing that the fire department wanted, and that was a 3,000-gallon water storage tank up near the premises. I had subsequently reviewed that with the applicant, and they're prepared to do that.
That was in lieu of sprinklers?
Right. The choice was to sprinkle the building or to provide a water source for the fire
They
department.
chose a tank.
Right. And the fire department signed off on that. They said that would be totally fine. Raised no objection. But we still have to work out those plan details. And so the purpose of having it on the agenda tonight is just to report in on the status of that. So we're still working with the applicant's representatives to clean up the technical issues on the site plans. But with the close of the public hearing, you may be now prepared to consider having me develop resolutions for that project.
We can direct you to have them for next month.
Right. If you wish. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone to that effect? Motions to direct Ron to prepare resolutions for the March meeting?
Make that motion.
Second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Kristen Connolly, Route 403 Garrison. Steve, I'm going to start with you on the 20%. And the 20%.
Thank you.
After some research and looking into the matter regarding building in steep slopes, as per the memo that I circulated to the board, building in steep slopes is allowed under two circumstances. The first is that a special permit would be granted by this board. In order to qualify for that special permit, an applicant must make showing, one, that there are non-steep slope areas on the site, in addition to the proposed steep slope area they're building in. Two, that building in the non-steep slope areas would result in more site disturbance than building in the steep slope area would. And three, that building in the non-steep slope area would result in adverse impacts to soils, vegetation, scenic views, and water resources. If an applicant can't meet that criteria, which is a pretty substantial criteria, then the applicant's remedy is to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals and seek an area variance from the steep slope prohibitions over 20% steep slope prohibition in the code. So they could go in and say, we want to build in 21% or 22%, or whatever it might be, and the zoning board would decide that under the area variance criteria provided for in the town law. That's where we're at.
Aside from the technical issues you meant, which I'll throw it around in a minute, the word safe kept coming up. It was determined that the road is...
No, that's the one.
Oh, that was the one we just did, sorry. We're getting my steep slopes mixed up.
I had enough trouble with this as it was, Andy. Don't be throwing me curveballs now.
Comment, Ron, on the technical side?
I think the most of the technical issues had been resolved. The board had concerns raised over just the circuitous nature of the driveway that bends to the north to get up to the property side, the side of the house, the location of the sanitary system, the location of on-site wetlands that are regulated by the town. The applicant had since gone to the Conservation Board and got a conditional wetlands permit to get that resolved. They've also now obtained Health Department approval for the design and location of that sanitary disposal system that's already showing on your site plans. So given all of those conditions or constraints, the applicant had little or no ability to relocate that house. They were also running into the rear yard setback because it's a small piece of property. And that's what culminated in all of this discussion. So they were forced to put the house in an area of steep slopes. There are portions of the house. Nevertheless, he would directed that resolutions be prepared. So you have before you tonight a draft negative secret declaration, which is pretty typical that you've seen before. We've also provided a site plan approval that presents in an outline form the conditions that Steve has described. And in the conditions, we identify the significant issue of having to obtain a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals in order to affect the site plan approval. So in the absence of receiving that, the approval that you might consider tonight would be null and void. So if you wish, if you're comfortable with that action, you can take it tonight.
Glenn, is there anything you want to say?
No, I think that summed up. We think that Steve's findings are correct, and if you would consider that condition, it would be fine with us.
Okay. Motion to declare.
Can I just,
Yeah, go ahead.
want to ask a question, I'm sorry. So let's say we do this, right? We approve these resolutions, and the ZBA doesn't give them approval. Does this sit in the record, and if someday, like the zoning changes or something, and there's a new ZBA, somebody can take this same approval and come back? It'll lapse.
If they
How
don't give their
soon-
condition.
It just lapses if the ZBA doesn't give approval.
Jesus, I don't remember if it's 6 months or a year or what it is for a site plan, but there's a time limit that you have to satisfy the conditions on before it expires.
Okay. So we're not doing it in perpetuity, we're,
Right, no.
it's for now.
The approval lapses if he cannot satisfy the conditions of approval or he can't pull a building permit for some reason.
I think that's
Right, it's both. They
Oh,
would
wow.
expire either way, right.
Okay,
Okay,
thanks.
anyone else? Okay, a motion to do a secret negative declaration.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second
all in favor?
that.
Aye. Now, the resolution with conditions, Ron?
Right. Again, their standard form, the somewhat unique condition is, in addition to the other technical concerns and payment of fees, it's, the applicant's obligated to secure a variance.
Well, would that be an additional, directing him to seek a variance? Is that-
It's
or is that
in the conditions
in
of
the
approval.
conditions of approval?
That's the condition, one of the conditions under which you would approve the project.
Okay,
And all that intimates is that he has to satisfy each and every one of those conditions. The endorsement of the site plans by the chairman actually signifies the approval. And that endorsed plan gets filed with the building department to permit him to pull a building permit. So the plan cannot be signed unless all those conditions are met.
okay. Steve,
And I usually am the backstop to make sure things get resolved before I allow the chair to sign it.
Okay, Yogi.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just explaining.
Steve?
No, everything Ron said is correct. The only thing I was going to add to it is that you should probably give them a referral to the zoning board. And I think, Kim, you'd sent me an email saying, are they going to get a copy of the memo that I circulated to the board? If the board directs that a referral be prepared, I'll send a letter saying where we are on this so the ZBA kind of knows, and I'll provide them with a copy of the memo as well so they understand why it's coming over. That should be a third resolution after the conditional approval.
Okay. Motion to approve the resolution with conditions?
I'll make that motion.
Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. And finally, referral to the ZBA? Anyone?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Did they do this, did you do the secret resolution? Did I miss that?
They did that first.
Oh, I didn't, okay, thank you.
Is there anything anyone else has? Steve, Ron?
Tell me about it.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second? All in favor? Thank you.